Welcome to Sister Reach's monthly Social Justice Preacher Series. I'm Dr. Sylvia Rue, Education and Outreach Director. Sister Reach is a grassroots 501c3 non-profit organization founded by Cherie Scott in 2011 in Memphis, Tennessee. Sister Reach supports the reproductive autonomy of women and teens of color, poor and rural women, LGBTQIA+ people, and their families through the framework of reproductive justice. Sister Reach's mission is to empower our base to lead healthy lives, raise healthy families, and live in healthy and sustainable communities. This is achieved through working by a four-pronged strategy: education, policy and advocacy, cultural shift, and harm reduction on a local, national, and international levels. Today, our Social Justice Preacher Series guest is the distinguished Rabbi Denise Eger, who is also a good friend of mine. And I would like to say my rabbi, if she would allow that. Rabbi Denise Eger is an international Jewish leader, speaker, and social justice activist. She is the founding rabbi of Congregation Kol Ami in West Hollywood, California. She is past president of the Central Conference of American Rabbis, the international organization of over 2,300 Reform rabbis. She served as the first openly gay or lesbian person in that position. She is also the first woman ever elected as president of the Southern California Board of Rabbis, which includes Reform, Conservative, Reconstructionist, and Orthodox rabbis. She's the editor of the groundbreaking book, Where Pride Dwells. I'm going to skip the Hebrew because I don't want to mess it up. A celebration of LGBT Jewish life and ritual. This collection of LGBTQ prayers, poems, liturgy, and rituals is both a spiritual resource and a celebratory affirmation of Jewish diversity. Rabbi Eger was named as one of the 50 most influential Jews by the Jewish Daily Forward and one of the 50 most influential women rabbis. In October of 2011, Rabbi Eger was one of the gay icons of Equality Forum's LGBT History Month. Huffington Post named her as the #1 LGBT clergy person in America, and deservedly so. Most recently recognized for her activism by the city of Los Angeles as a trailblazer, she has won numerous awards for her leadership from the Human Rights Campaign, the City of West Hollywood, the California Senate, and State Assembly. Raised in Memphis, Tennessee, Rabbi Eger graduated with honors from the University of Southern California with a bachelor's degree in religion in 1982. She received her master's degree from Hebrew Union College, Jewish Institute of Religion in 1985, and was ordained as rabbi in 1988 at the New York campus of HUC. She received her Doctor of Divinity in 2013 from HUC/JIR. Eger is a Senior Rabbinic Fellow of the Shalom Hartman Institute in Jerusalem. Today, she's going to talk about abortion from a Jewish perspective, and I would like us all to welcome my friend and this amazing theologian, Rabbi Denise Eger.
Thank you, Dr. Rue. It's so good to be with you and with everybody at Sister Reach. Being from Memphis, I know the community well. I still have family there, and I know the whole region and the importance of the work you're doing, which is so incredible. And I'm so honored to teach a little bit about the perspective about reproductive justice and Judaism. Because often in this whole national political discussion, as Roe v. Wade is under attack, there seems to be embedded in the conversation a particular theological view that runs counter to the Jewish view. So in presenting to you today the Jewish view, I'm hoping to expand your understanding of approaches to reproductive justice from a Jewish view. And of course, Christianity grew out of Judaism, Islam grew out of Judaism, and so we can begin to see at least the roots of different theological perspectives. To do that, I'm going to share my screen with all of you today. And as I said, our topic is Judaism and reproductive justice. The vast majority of Jewish experts believe it is up to women to make the choice. This is a radical statement given the political dialogue around religion and whether one is pro-life or pro-choice, what theology is, but we need to start here. Whatever their opinions on abortion in any given situation, the vast majority of Jewish thinkers agree that decision-making with respect to abortion must be left in the hands of the woman involved, who may consult her husband, partner, her physician, her rabbi. It is not for the government to be involved in such decision-making at all. And most Jewish organizations who are involved in social justice, who are involved in service to women, similar to Sister Reach, national political organizations that serve in the Jewish community, they are almost always aligned in the pro-choice camp, leaving this decision to individuals. But how do we get there is really the question. Why is that so universally in the Jewish world? Well, there are three guiding principles on abortion in Jewish tradition. First, a woman's life, her pain and her concerns takes precedence over those of the fetus. Let me say this again. A woman's life takes precedence over the fetus or embryos. Two, existing life is always sacred and takes precedence over a potential life. And three, a woman has personal freedom to apply the principles of her tradition unfettered by the legal imposition of moral standards other than her own. These are critically important and speak to the agency of women in Jewish tradition. But it also, these three guiding principles inform all of kind of the Jewish theological teachings around this issue in particular. We already notice that these three principles are in contradiction to those that are often promulgated in the Catholic Church or by conservative evangelicals. These are the authentic Jewish position, regardless of where you fall in the denominational divisions within Judaism, whether you're in our more orthodox, which would be aligned with our more fundamentalist ideals, or in the most progressive liberal humanist ideals. This is something that we agree on.
Mm-hmm.
Four aspects that I want to delve into that we use to examine the issue of abortion in Jewish tradition. First, we turn to the Jewish system of making decisions, which is called halakha, or it is what we know as Jewish law. For those of you in religious communities that has canon law, like the Episcopal Church or the Catholic Church, this is a similar process. But this is what we use. First, the legal status of the embryo or fetus. Mm-hmm. Two, what is the time of ensoulment? When does it become a human soul, right? Three, conditions under which a therapeutic abortion may take place. And four, conditions under which a non-therapeutic abortion may take place. We have to look at these four things to help us understand how Jewish tradition works. So let's first examine the first one, the legal status of the embryo fetus, because of course this is a critical piece of understanding this whole debate in our country. According to Jewish law, a fetus is not considered a full human being and has no judicial personality of its own. So while recognizing the potential of becoming a human, our great scholar and teacher from the 12th century, a commentator on the Bible and the Talmud, Rashi is his name, Rabbi Shimon ben Yitzhaki, it's an abbreviation, says that clearly a fetus is not a person. And the Talmud contains a different expression that the fetus is really a part of the body of the woman. And so they base these ideas on a specific biblical passage in the book of Exodus. When men fight and one of them pushes a pregnant woman and a miscarriage results, but no other damage ensues, the one responsible shall be fined according as the woman's husbands may exact from him, the payment to be based on reckoning. But if the damage ensues, the penalty shall be life for life. Now, we know that the Bible calls for, at least in its earliest form, a version of lex talionis, taking a life for another life. This passage is very clear. The fetus is not considered a life in here, is not considered a human life. And so we cannot understand that that lex talionis, the punishment of a life for a life, would be put in place. Rather, the Jewish legal interpretation of this passage specifically states that only monetary compensation is necessary when one causes the death of a fetus. The unborn fetus is not worthy of life for life punishment demanded if the woman herself is killed. This implies that the fetus is not according to the same legal status as a woman, namely that of an independent human being. So this is a critical piece, for foundational piece for how did Jews come to that position. Even in the Torah, even in the first 5 books of Moses, the Pentateuch, in the book of Exodus, a fetus does not have the same equivalency as a full human life. Jewish law is quite clear. The fetus in the womb is to be protected as a potential human being, but it doesn't have any personhood itself. It doesn't have rights. It is not a viable living being yet outside of the womb, and thus it's not accorded any of the rights or privileges of a human being in Jewish legal tradition. So that's the first aspect that we talked about. In Jewish tradition, we approach the issue of, is the fetus a human yet? The answer is clearly no. And the answer in Jewish tradition is, as we'll see in a little bit, it's not considered fully human until the majority part of the crowning of the head is outside of the woman's body. Then it takes on a different status. The second question that we have to examine is the time of ensoulment. It's very clear that the Catholic Church, who have been so vocal in this issue around trying to get rid of Roe v. Wade in our country, that life begins at conception. We often hear that. Life begins at conception. And of course, the law that's been recently enacted in Texas and similar heartbeat laws across the nation that try to reduce the time of when women can access abortion. The Texas law is specifically limiting it to 6 weeks. Right, so that some of us don't even know that we're pregnant at 6 weeks. Our cycles are so irregular. How would we even know? So this is really important to understand. The Jewish perspective is different than most Christian perspectives that are in this. The debate about abortion in America hinges on the questions related to what constitutes personhood and when does life begin. But my friends, these are not political questions.
Right.
These are religious and spiritual questions on which people of faith can disagree with one another, which is exactly why it shouldn't be enshrined in law. In Jewish tradition, in our Talmud, it concludes that prior to 40 days, right, about that 6 weeks, the fetus isn't a person, but rather it's even considered just water. The rabbis even knew that it was nothing but a collection of cells.
Right.
But the most famous text in this regard, it comes from a really bizarre story in our tradition. It comes from a dialogue between the Roman Emperor Antoninus and Rabbi Judah the Patriarch. He was the great leader of the Jewish people post around the year 200. So this is post the destruction of the temple. The Roman it's not the Holy Roman Empire yet. The Roman Empire controls the ancient Near East and most of the known world at that time. Antonius asked Rabbi Judah, from when is a neshama, when is a soul endowed in a human? From the time of birth or from the moment of intercourse? They're asking the same question that is being asked in this debate about about abortion rights. Way back when. Rabbi Judah gives this answer: from the time of birth. The emperor asks, can meat remain 3 days without salt and not purify? It's kind of an obscure answer. It's not very direct. So what could possibly the emperor mean? According to the Talmud, then, it can take as long as 3 days from the moment of intercourse until the ovum is fertilized. That's the ancient understanding. And we know that in the process of pregnancy, that the sperm can live a long time, and that moment of conception might not happen just immediately in the act of coitus. What then keeps the sperm, and the analogy is the meat, vital through the period of time? They understood it really differently. They didn't have the science we did. They said there must be some vitalizing force, i.e. salt, present. From that conclusion in their discussion, it appears that due to the questions of the Roman emperor, Judah changed his mind and adopted the position that ensoulment occurs at conception. However, the rabbis of his and succeeding generations took such a view to task. They expressed a variety of opinions, citing proofs for ensoulment as early as that moment of intercourse and as late as a time as a child learns to speak. Basically, you could have a soul even after the child is long born. So there's a lot of variety of opinion on this. Right. The rabbis were teaching us that the moment of ensoulment is unclear at best. And they agreed to put it under that this is rather a secret of God and that will be revealed only when the Messiah comes. So as a result, this question of when does life begin, the time of ensoulment, when does the fetus become a human, plays no role in the Jewish consideration around the morality of abortion. And this is really important. This is not a Jewish question then. It doesn't play a role in our deciding. So let's move on. Now that we know that in Judaism, we don't consider the fetus human yet. We're not concerned with this period of what is the moment of ensoulment, because we can't know. That's God's business, not our business. Abortion is permitted in the Jewish tradition, and our ancient texts talk about it. So what are the conditions for therapeutic abortion? When can that happen? The issue is dealt with in the 2nd century Jewish legal text. Look how ancient that is. Right. If a woman is in hard labor that threatens her life, one dismembers the fetus within her and removes it limb by limb, because her life takes precedent over its life. Once the greater part of it emerges, it may not be touched, for we do not set aside one life for another. So in Jewish tradition, our position is really clear. First, for therapeutic abortion, if that fetus is endangering the life of the woman, abortion is not only permitted, but according to some teachers, required, because her life takes precedence. This is exactly opposite many, many other religious traditions, particularly the Catholic Church, who teaches that the fetus has precedence over the woman's life. There are 2 principles employed that arrive at the conclusion that the abortion is justified. First and foremost of the 2 is that the fetus remains only a potential human life until it emerges from the birth canal, and then so one must therefore sacrifice a potential life in order to say a fully existent human life, the pregnant woman in labor. The second principle deals with the concept of self-defense. Think about this for a moment. It's a really interesting legal argument for those of you that have some legal background. In Jewish law, one is permitted to defend oneself, even to the extent of taking the attacker's life should one's own life be in jeopardy. This point was brought into a discussion on abortion when some authorities in the Talmud challenged the prohibition stated above of taking the life of its mother. It was argued that the same principle of the aggressor ought to apply, so that the fetus is the aggressor and attacking the woman, and therefore we have the ability to have an abortion. One final note that's important and authentic to say. Our Talmud text does not present either the pregnant woman or her physician with options. If her life is threatened, the unborn fetus must be sacrificed. She may not take the decision to sacrifice her own life for that of the fetus within. She is protected according to Jewish tradition. We know that for those of us who are moms or want to become moms or longing to become moms or in the process of being a mom by being pregnant, our emotions are deeply connected to this process of childbirth. And so the tradition wants to be really clear that, we moms, we would do anything for our kids, maybe including sacrificing our own life. But the tradition is clear that it's not what is wanted, for you to sacrifice your own life for that of a potential life. Finally, their fourth system here is the conditions for non-therapeutic abortions. Now, there are a variety of positions in Judaism on this topic, and Jewish law is based on many different cases. And so for non-therapeutic abortions, there is a wide-ranging group of opinions here. The first case concerns a child who is nursing and cannot survive without his mother's milk, being allergic to all other forms of nutrition. The mother, however, having become pregnant once again, sees that her milk has now ceased flowing. Here, where the issue is saving the life of the third party, meaning the child, the nursing child, as opposed to the pregnant woman herself, two different authorities mandate the performance of an abortion to save the life of the existing child. In other words, if her milk runs dry and that infant cannot use anything else to sustain itself, we shouldn't sacrifice the life of the living child. There's a consistency within the Jewish position on reproduction, choices of abortion or not. The other cases emerge today as a result of a better understanding of mental health issues. And this is really important for us to understand. The question is whether or not there are suicidal tendencies in a pregnant woman, tendency that might result in the pregnancy itself, impel the woman to take her own life. Maybe it's about poverty is so overwhelming. Maybe it's living in the certain conditions in a household, perhaps got pregnant, that may be living in an abusive home situation. They also, too, are considered justifiable reasons for the performance of abortion. Even in the case of most stringent authorities in our Jewish tradition, permit abortion to save the life of the pregnant woman. So there's so much discussion in the legal realm today about forcing women to have children, even though the conditions of their life really are life-threatening for them. And it's not just a physical life-threatening, it's about mental well-being as well. And so these are conditions that Jewish tradition does indeed permit non-therapeutic abortions. In past century, many other circumstances have come before the rabbinical authorities. One case involved a woman whose pregnancy would leave her permanently deaf, while some others rejected this as sufficient grounds for an abortion. No less an authority than a chief rabbi of Israel granted her permission. There is a level of compassion for a woman's agency and humanity, that she can make decisions about her own life with those she loves around her and her medical advisors. In cases involving adultery, there's also a division of opinion. Some invoke the principle of let the fruit of the act bear witness to the deed. Others maintain that we must do everything possible to save a pregnant woman from great mental pain and anguish, shame being the greatest mental pain. And in several cases involving rape, this principle seems to dominate, with many authorities granting permission to take the steps necessary to ensure that pregnancy will not result. So these are just many layers of trying to understand why Jewish tradition really across the board of our denominational spectrum really support the pro-choice movement in America, support women's right to make the choices about her own body, about her own pregnancy, with those she loves, with her medical, with her doctor, with spouses and partners, if there are any, with her family, and with her own conscience and her own morality, rather than to be legislated by the government. So due to leniency in matters of abortion, as well as the long-standing and Jewish insistence on the separation of religion and government in American life, All four non-Orthodox Jewish movements, Reform, Reconstructionist, Conservatives, and Humanists, which I will add is the majority of Jewish population, is 90% of the Jewish population in America, were on record opposing any governmental regulation on abortion. Moreover, many in our Orthodox camp also take the same position. Whatever their opinions on abortion in any given particular situation, the vast majority of Jewish thinkers agree that decision-making with respect to abortion must be left in the hands of the woman involved, her husband, spouse, if there are, her physician, her rabbi. And out of this context, in consonance with her Jewish heritage, she can make a decision as she is permitted to do by the United States Constitution. Let's be really clear, and I want to answer some specific questions. According to Jewish law, is abortion health care? Yes. Abortion is health care. That's what we talk about. It's about medical. It's about having the proper medical access to good health care, regardless of our station in life, the color of our skin, or our religious creed. This is so important. What Sister Reach, I know, does its work every single day in helping people access good health care. And so reproductive justice demands that we infuse the healthcare system in our country with access to abortion care for all who are able to get pregnant. And this includes good mental health care. So across the spectrum, most Jewish organizations advocate for abortion access as an essential component of comprehensive, affordable, confidential, equitable family planning, reproductive, sexual health, and maternal health services. It is critical, and most Jewish organizations are in fact lobbying for this. Do abortion bans unduly favor one religious viewpoint over another? Sadly, the answer, if you are Jewish, is yes. Because I think I have demonstrated to you today, different religions believe that human life begins at different stages of development. There is no consensus, and as we said in Jewish tradition, we say that's a secret of God, not for human understanding. Science explains developmental timelines, but philosophic and religious viewpoints largely determine what exactly defines life or personhood for each individual. The First Amendment to our U.S. Constitution guarantees that no one religion should be enshrined in law or dictate public policy on any issue. And my friends, that includes abortion. So all of this effort to overturn Roe v. Wade, all of the local and state bills that would whittle away our access and funding, governmental funding of women's clinics and healthcare clinics that provide abortion access, from a Jewish perspective, it is a violation of our constitutional rights. And so this is why, excuse me, the Jewish community, almost to a T, supports Roe v. Wade, and that it should continue to be protected under the Constitution's Fourth Amendment, which guarantees a right to privacy, including a right to private medical procedures. For American Jews, the protection of access to abortion could also be understood under the First Amendment Free Exercise of Religion Clause, because the way these laws are being written in various states, like Tennessee, like Texas, like Mississippi, basically are antithetical to our Jewish spiritual and religious teachings around abortion and women's agency. So this is why the Jewish community supports Roe v. Wade and permits abortion in certain circumstances, and it is also morally acceptable. So often we women are made to feel shame if we have to have an abortion. Jewish tradition is clear. There's nothing shameful about it. This is whatever you can do to support your life and to heal yourself. This is critical, and we see it as God's blessing to heal yourself and to take care of yourself and to take care of your well-being. You do not have to sacrifice your life for a potential life. And that is a blessing, considered a blessing in Jewish tradition. So Judaism is unequivocally pro-life because we do believe in life, and we believe in the life of the mother, and we believe in the life of those who are born. But we are definitely in the pro-choice camp. We're more what we would consider those who are anti-abortion. That is not the Jewish understanding or teaching of our tradition. We understand that abortion sometimes is necessary. And we must advocate for civil laws that protect a woman's right to access abortion services. So that is a little ways to understand the Jewish tradition in terms of reproductive justice and why Jewish organizations and Jewish community and Jewish leaders are active in the pro-choice movement. Obviously, it is ultimately a decision between you, your family, and your God as you understand it. And we believe that the government should have no role in defining that relationship.
Absolutely. I have one question for you, Rabbi. We seem not to have traction going into a court of law saying that your anti-abortion bans and laws are against my religious beliefs. Is that true?
Well, this is a significant problem in the rhetoric around the discussion around abortion rights and abortion access. And one of the things that I think has happened, and I will say this, there's been so oftentimes isolation in our communities. We know that we've become more polarized. We've become more talking to ourselves in our own little bubbles. This is really an opportunity for terrific coalition building across religious lines.
Right.
And we need to do a better job of that.
Yes.
Specifically. And I think we need to demonstrate more often when we go to court, and we fail to do that. Oftentimes people who are activists in the realm for reproductive justice forget to bring the religious argument, and we're arguing against those who are really faithful and really in their religious tradition on the what they call on the anti-abortion activists.
Yes.
And so we have to take those of us for whom have a different kind of theological presentation. We need to also front load those conversations and those arguments as well.
Right. I want to thank you for your excellent presentation today. It's I learned a lot, and it's going to help me in my work. And I want to just thank you so much for your contribution today and your life's work, which has been stellar. It's just I've known you for at least 30 years, I think, and it's just been amazing knowing you. And I really thank you for the information and the enlightenment you brought to us today.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, Dr. Rue. I always feel empowered when I partner with you to make good trouble, as the great John Lewis would say. And the work that you're doing now with Sister Reach is just so important. And I look forward to continuing to fight this good fight for women's rights and women's health care and the rights of women at all areas of life. And together make a really big difference and blessing. You are a blessing, and I appreciate all that you do.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We're going to end this for today, but this has been amazing, and I really appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right.